Let's not pretend. You know this feeling intimately, the cold dread that can awaken even before you do, the frantic hum beneath your skin. It has 1,000 names: worry, dread, anxiety, but it feels like one thing: a tightening, a closing in. It is the mind turning on itself, replaying past humiliations on a relentless loop while storyboarding future catastrophes in exquisite, painful detail. It is the inner tyrant that arrives uninvited, feasts on the present moment, and whispers that it will never leave. You look out at the world and see others, don't you? You see them move through the chaos of life with a sense of centeredness, a lightness you can't seem to access. They navigate failure, uncertainty, betrayal, and loss with a quiet strength that feels like a superpower. You've convinced yourself they are just built differently, wired for peace, lucky. But here is the first hard truth. Peace is not a state you are given. It is a space you must cultivate. Their calm is not an accident of birth. It is a function of a well-trained mind. And here is the second, more difficult truth. Your suffering, your anxiety is not an affliction. It is a habit. It is the mind's compulsive, deeply ingrained pattern of clinging to every appearance, every thought, every sensation, every imagined scenarios, if it were solid, permanent, and an absolute truth. You are an artist who has painted a terrifying monster and are now fleeing from your own canvas. You are caught in a storm of your own making, believing every drop of rain is a personal curse. Because your mind is a magnificent, ancient survival machine that is running an outdated program. Evolutionarily, it was designed to scan the horizon for threats, to ruminate on what went wrong to avoid future danger. This negativity bias was once a feature, not a bug. It kept your ancestors alive. But in a world of deadlines, social pressures, and digital floods, this mechanism has turned on itself. Your mind is now a 24/7's what-if generator, creating endless hypothetical threats that you react to as if they were real. Society then pours gasoline on this fire. It tells you to conquer your fear, to battle your anxiety, to crush your negative thoughts. You are sold a story of inner warfare, so you obey. You numb yourself with distraction, endless scrolling, binge-watching, working until exhaustion. You try to wrestle your thoughts into submission, pushing them down, only to feel them surge back with a vengeance, like holding a beach ball underwater. You engage in meticulous analysis, believing that if you just think harder about the problem, you can figure out your fear and dismantle it with logic. This itself becomes a form of clinging and addiction to the process of solving a feeling that was never a problem to begin with. Let's be painfully, unequivocally clear. These strategies are not just ineffective. They are the very architecture of your suffering. Trying to suppress a thought gives it immense power. Trying to analyze a feeling with a frantic mind is like trying to perform surgery with a shaking hand. The struggle itself is the disturbance. The root of this pattern is a case of mistaken identity. You believe you are your thoughts. You believe the feeling of fear is a direct and accurate report on reality. You have mistaken the fleeting, impersonal weather of your mind for the sky itself. This fear is rooted in a deep, primal, clinging to a self and ego that feels fragile, small, and in constant need of protection from a hostile world. This self, this I, that feels so solid, is the very thing that feels so perpetually threatened. Here is a hard truth that cuts to the bone. Your desperate, lifelong project of protecting and securing this self is the very source of its insecurity. You are a prisoner who has grown so accustomed to their chains that they provide a strange, familiar comfort, mistaking the open door for a terrifying void. Before he was the Buddha, he was Siddhartha, a man consumed by the reality of suffering, just like you. His quest was not for divinity, but for a practical human solution to the pain of existence. For over 2,500 years, the wisdom he uncovered has concerned itself with one primary project: the complete and utter liberation from suffering. And at its very heart lies a profound, almost shockingly simple insight into the nature of the mind. It doesn't offer you a bigger shield or a sharper sword to fight your inner demons. It offers you the clear-sighted wisdom to see that those demons are shadows, projected by your own mind. The path forward is not found in suppression, management, or analysis, but in a radical shift of perception. The core of this shift is a principle known in the Zen tradition as Jin Buzhuo Jiang, Sin Buzhuo Sang. It translates to: the mind does not cling to appearances. This isn't a poetic suggestion or a passive philosophy. It is a direct, actionable instructional technology for de-weaponizing the mind. An appearance is anything that arises and passes away in the field of your consciousness. A thought, an emotion, a memory, a judgment, a sensation of fear, a tightening in your gut, the sound of a critical voice, the vivid image of a future event. To not cling means to allow these appearances to arise, to be fully present, and to pass away, without your mind instinctively grabbing onto them, identifying with them, personalizing them, or building a catastrophic story around them. It is the master key that unlocks the cage of anxiety. Let's trace the anatomy of a single anxious spiral through this Buddhist lens. It begins with an appearance, an email from your boss, a memory of a past failure, a strange sensation in your chest. Instantly, the habit of clinging begins. This is the grasping mind, upadana. First, you grab it. You don't let it be a neutral, fleeting event. You snatch it out of the stream of consciousness and hold it up for inspection. Second, you wrap it in story. You weave a narrative around it, fueled by past evidence and future fears. This email means my project is failing. My boss is disappointed. I remember I messed up last time. I'm going to lose my job. I'll be a failure. You are no longer experiencing a simple email. You are living inside a horror film you are directing, writing, and starring in. Third, you solidify it with the 3 poisons. You inject the experience with the poison of greed, clinging, desperately wanting a different reality, clinging to the idea of safety and success. Aversion, hating the feeling of fear, trying to push it away. And ignorance, fundamentally misunderstanding the nature of the thought as a solid reality and forgetting that you are the awareness watching the thought. This entire process can happen in a split second. The initial spark of a neural firing, an impersonal appearance, is transformed by the act of clinging into a raging bonfire of personal suffering or dukkha. The Buddhist understanding reveals that the initial jolt of fear is just energy. It's neutral. It's information. It's the story you tell about it, the act of identifying with it that creates the prison. Here is the hard truth of your current method. You are not a victim of your anxiety. You are its primary collaborator. You are feeding the ghost at your table and then wondering why it never leaves. Your mind is like a hand that compulsively grabs a hot coal, gets burned, and then spends hours analyzing the coal's properties, origin, and temperature, all while still holding it. The wisdom is not to analyze the coal, it is simply to open the hand. The mind must learn to stop clinging to the coal. This is not a passive resignation. It is an active, graceful, and courageous skill. We can call it the art of the untouched mind. It is a trainable capacity. It has 4 key components. First, radical observation, mindfulness. This is the practice of sati. When the feeling of anxiety appears, you do not run, fight, or analyze. You turn toward it with gentle curiosity. You notice it. You become an impartial scientist of your inner world. Observe it as raw physical sensation. Where is it? Is it in your stomach? A knot? Is it in your throat? A tightness? Is it in your shoulders? A weight? Is it hot, cold, vibrating, numb? You can even silently label it tightness, heat, vibration. This act of noting keeps you anchored in the direct physical reality of the sensation, preventing the mind from spiraling into story. You are stepping out of the movie and into the audience. You are the sky watching the storm. Second, de-identification. As you observe, you gently but firmly correct the language of your mind. You consciously refuse to label the feeling as mine. Instead of thinking, I am anxious, you practice thinking, the feeling of anxiety is present, or there is a wave of fear arising in the body. This is not denial, it is precision. You are not your fear. You are the awareness that is aware of the fear. This small linguistic shift creates a vast space between you, the observer, and the feeling, the observed. It severs the cord of identification. Third, acknowledging impermanence, anicca. As you watch the sensation, you remind yourself of a universal truth. This too shall pass. No feeling is final, no thought is permanent. It arose from causes and conditions, and when those conditions change, it will dissolve. You watch it, knowing its nature is to change, like a wave rising, cresting, and inevitably falling back into the ocean. You don't have to make it go away. Its departure is built into its very nature. Your job is simply to watch without interference. Fourth, compassionate allowance, metta. This is a crucial step. Instead of meeting the fear with aversion, go away, I hate this, you meet it with a touch of kindness. You can place a hand on your heart and silently say, it's okay, I can make space for this feeling. It is trying to protect me. You treat your fear not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a frightened child that needs to be held with gentle, spacious awareness. This compassion disarms the inner war. The hard truth is this: liberation is not the future absence of fearful thoughts. It is the present realization that you are not those thoughts. The art is in learning how to gently open the hand. Imagine your true nature, your core consciousness is the vast, clear, open sky. It is boundless, ever-present, and fundamentally peaceful. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations, joy, grief, anger, and especially the dark, turbulent clouds of anxiety and fear are just weather patterns passing through this sky. For most of your life, you have forgotten that you are the sky. You have identified with the weather. When a dark storm cloud of panic appears, you have believed, I am this storm. You have tracked its every movement, feared its lightning, and lamented its rain, completely forgetting that behind and all around the cloud, the sky remains unstained, untouched, and utterly unharmed. The practice of non-clinging is the moment-to-moment act of remembering you are the sky. When a storm cloud of panic gathers, you don't try to outrun it. You don't try to frantically push it away. The sky doesn't fight its clouds. It simply allows them to be there. It holds them in its vast, accepting embrace. It lets them drift, thunder if they must, rain if they must, and eventually pass on as they always do. The presence of even the most violent storm does not in any way change or damage the fundamental nature of the sky. A second metaphor is that of a deep ocean. Your true awareness is the profound, silent stillness of the ocean depths. Anxiety, worry, and fear are the waves on the surface, choppy, chaotic, and ever-changing. You have spent your life living in the turbulent surf, tossed about by every wave. The practice is to realize you are not the waves. You are the entire ocean. You can learn to rest in your own silent depths, able to watch the surface turmoil without being disturbed by it. The spaciousness of the sky and the depth of the ocean are one and the same principle. The waves cannot harm the deep. To make this your default state, rather than a momentary technique, you must diligently cultivate the garden of your mind. 3 essential qualities, known as the bojjhangas, or factors of enlightenment, are key. The first is mindfulness, sati, the foundation. This is the skill of remembering to be aware in the present moment. You cultivate it through formal practice, like sitting meditation, where you patiently bring your attention back to the feeling of your breath over and over again. And you cultivate it informally by bringing awareness to daily acts, feeling the water as you wash dishes, noticing the ground beneath your feet as you walk. Sati is the muscle of awareness. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. It is the flashlight that allows you to see the process of clinging as it happens, giving you the choice to let go. The second is equanimity, upekkha. This is not cold indifference or apathy. It is a profound and spacious balance of the heart. It is the inner stability that comes from wisdom, the deep seeing of impermanence. Equanimity allows you to be with the pleasant, the unpleasant, and the neutral without being hijacked by them. When fear arises, equanimity meets it with a calm, open stability, saying, I see you. You are welcome here. I know you will not last. It's the unshakable peace of the deep ocean which remains still regardless of the weather on the surface. The third is loving kindness, metta. Anxiety is often coupled with a harsh inner critic. We get anxious, and then we get angry at ourselves for being anxious. Metta is the antidote. It is the intentional cultivation of unconditional friendliness toward yourself. It is the practice of silently repeating phrases like, may I be safe, may I be peaceful, may I be free from suffering. Directing this goodwill inward softens the heart and creates a safe inner environment where feelings of fear can arise and pass without the secondary layer of self-judgment. Think of it this way. Mindfulness is the light that lets you see clearly. Equanimity is the steady ground on which you stand. And loving kindness is the warmth that makes the seeing bearable. As you consistently practice this art of non-clinging, the landscape of your inner world begins to transform. The world outside doesn't change, but your experience of it is revolutionized. The constant, low-grade static of anxiety begins to fade. When fear does arise, it is no longer a monstrous home invader. It is simply a visitor you can greet with awareness and let pass. You realize the freedom was never in getting rid of the coal, but in knowing you didn't have to hold it in the first place. You begin to shed the heavy armor of avoidance, control, and rumination. In its place, you discover a courage you never knew you had. Not the brittle courage of fighting, but the resilient courage of being open, of being present with the full, messy, beautiful catastrophe of life as it actually is. The raw truth of this rebirth is that you must allow the old story of yourself to die. The story that defined you by your anxieties. The story that found a strange, familiar comfort in the prison of your fears. The story that clung to the identity of being an anxious person. Letting go of this story can feel like a terrifying freefall. But it is the necessary death of the seed's shell before the great tree can emerge. What emerges is not a numb, passionless void. It is a vibrant, engaged, and profoundly peaceful presence. Your energy, once consumed by the inner war, is now free to be invested in creativity, connection, and purpose. You can love deeply and face uncertainty, not without fear, but with the unshakable wisdom that fear is just a passing cloud in the vast, brilliant sky of your true nature. This is the deep, abiding peace that comes when you finally embody the ultimate truth. The mind doesn't get stuck on what it sees. It gets stuck on its own clinging. This ancient wisdom is not a belief system you must adopt on faith. It is a direct invitation to conduct an experiment with your own consciousness. It is a path to be walked, not a destination to be read about. The path is simple, though your conditioning will tell you it is complex. It begins with a single moment of awareness. Your challenge, should you choose to accept it, has two levels. The gentle start. The next time you feel the familiar stirrings of anxiety, just for the length of 3 conscious breaths, do nothing. Don't fight it. Don't feed it a story. Don't try to fix it. Just notice it. See it as a cloud. Feel it as a sensation. Acknowledge its presence with gentle, curious attention and watch it, knowing it is already in the process of changing. The deeper practice. For 1 week, try to find 1 moment each day to practice. When a worry about the future arises, can you label it thinking and return to the feeling of your feet on the floor? When a physical sensation of anxiety appears, can you place a hand on your chest and offer it a moment of kindness? This is the work of a lifetime, but it happens only in this present moment. The journey out of the prison of fear is not a single dramatic jailbreak. It is the quiet, repeated, courageous act of noticing the door has been open all along. So, I invite you to declare your intention. What is one appearance, one recurring anxious thought, story, or feeling that you are willing to practice meeting with spacious awareness instead of clinging to this week? Share it in the comments below, not as a complaint, but as a declaration of your practice. Declare your intention to be the sky, not the storm. Remember, the work is not to silence the fear. It is to discover the silence that your fear cannot touch.